Thea?
Excellent. And we're going to talk about budgeting your business today. Um,
Yes. Yes.
so, how many people out there have had trouble budgeting your business? So, how do you know what to put aside, or you just told to buy, and then you run
Yes.
out of money? So,
Yes.
Cynthia, would you like to elaborate on that for us, please?
I would. And I would like to take just one or two steps back. So, we're, when you and we got into this, I think we came from two different places. Um, but we ultimately, the reason why we wanted to set up a home based business, the reason why we got into internet marketing was obviously there are lots of reasons for doing that, but the main reason ultimately is to make money. And I think that this is the topic of money is something that people who are launching their own business tend to pussyfoot around because there's a certain shame associated with potentially not having enough. And so I want to say that budgeting helps you understand what it is that you have, and it also helps you understand what the money that you want to earn um, is actually going to do for you. And so, when I got involved in internet marketing, I actually had started budgeting through my previous business as a freelance writer. But when I started as a freelance writer more than 10 years ago, um, I actually I actually did not budget. I really didn't have any idea I didn't have a real idea of what I wanted to earn. I mean, yes, I had a magic number and a magic goal of what I wanted to make every month, but I really didn't understand like what kind of work that money was going to make for me. And when I finally understood budgeting, things got really clear for me, and also understanding how to reach those earning goals became a lot clearer to me as well. And so I actually want to urge people to take a moment before they start investing in their business to really kind of like take a breather, spend the time that you need to feel comfortable with budgeting in general, and then with the budget that you set for yourself. And that's like my big, if there's one thing that I want people to take away, it's take the time to set a budget. Do not ignore that step. and,
Yeah, for
and then I
sure.
could do a lot more talking, but I just want to.
Well, especially for the new people. I know
Yes.
for me, when I first learned there's a lot of excitement about getting started, making money,
Mm-hmm,
all of that enthusiasm.
mm-hmm.
And I think there was a tendency for me, and I found it in other people, to jump ahead
Yep,
and get advertise, and then if the results aren't there, it's a huge disappointment.
correct. Correct. And so one of the key pieces of advice that I think a lot of the reputable gurus out there make sure to say is to treat your home business or your online business like a business. Um, I think, though, that is almost a bit too abstract for a lot of people who are getting involved.
Well, to some people, what does that mean?
Exactly. I mean, I know I have asked myself that question even when I had a budget.
Hmm.
And it wasn't until, gosh, maybe a few weeks ago when we were you and I were talking about planning, a couple topics for our shows, where I realized that like every legitimate business has a budget.
Mhm.
Every single one has a budget. And they have taken the time, and they take the time regularly, but they took the time before they got launched with all of their activities and actions and busyness. They sat down and they said, okay, this is what we've got. This is what we can expect. These are our expenses, and this is how we allocate our funds. And then they meet like every business will meet regularly. Your CEO, your CFO, your COO, your CXX, whatever, will get together frequently, and they will meet and they will say, we've earned this much. That's added money to our budget. How are we going to reallocate our funds?
Mhm.
And I think that's something that individuals who are just starting with their own business, like they have to be their own boss, which means they need to report to themselves and they have to say, boss, how much money do I have in the budget to buy advertising?
Yes.
And the boss can say, you've got $5, you've got 50 cents, you've got, $50 or more, but,
Mhm.
you've got to then be accountable to you. And, if you're going to be the boss of your business, you need to do what it takes to understand what your budget allows for you to spend in that, within those parameters.
Mhm. So
So
do you think the most of the affiliate marketers out there uh, are spending any time on this topic for individuals to help them plan?
I have not seen it.
Mm. Neither have I.
I haven't seen it. I have, heard about it in my freelance writer community,
Hmm.
um, but also in a very, very high level sort of way.
Hmm.
But I've never actually heard anybody mention it, even in the context of, treat your home business, treat your freelance business, treat your sole proprietor business, whatever it is, as a business. And I think actually, in fact, if I were to say there's the first thing that you should do, it's the budgeting. Then the next thing is deciding what kind of legal entity you want to be, your branding, your logo, and all of those things are important. But
Hmm.
I think the budget is the first priority. It is the first thing that you need to do in treating your business like a business, because you're in business to make money. So you have an earning goal. I think that's awesome. And keep that earning goal, put it in big numbers on your wall or on your vision board or all of these things. Put all of the pictures on your vision board. I think that's very important. But
Hmm.
then you also need to establish your spending limits and understanding how that works. And I'm not saying that to limit your activities, but I am doing it so that you can treat your business like a business, move forward with the
Hmm.
confidence that you have made business decisions for yourself and for your business, and that it actually will empower you to say no
Hmm.
when you are presented with an offer you just can't refuse.
And there are plenty of them out there. Plenty.
There's so many, and
There's countless.
actually, I discovered I discovered a really useful tool
Hmm.
um, online, and it's helped me understand budgeting for my freelance writing business. And now I actually use it to budget all of my household expenses. So I have the budget for my business, and I have a budget for our household, my husband and my household expenses and living, etc. And it has really allowed me to not act impulsively, and to also be okay with my decisions. So, I could weigh, so that when I was presented with an opportunity, like one network marketing, affiliate marketing opportunity that you and we've talked about, the super affiliate network, when I found out that like going pro meant, there's the introductory price, which is, quite affordable. And then going pro, that's an investment. And, like that is not a decision that anybody should make lightly in their business.
Right.
And I was able to make that decision not lightly, but confidently, because I knew that I had allocated funds for learning about setting up an online business. So I actually had funds separated for, I have like let's say, an education, continued learning, a budget category. So I always put in a little bit of money, and most of the times, actually, in the past, it used to be on like writing courses or being parts of, associations like that. And then I just paused for a while, but I kept allocating monies to that budget column. And then when this opportunity came up, I said, you know what? I think it's time for me to kind of learn something new, expand my knowledge base. And so I was able to confidently spend a very healthy, for me, 4-figure sum to, invest in this learning opportunity. And that's, I think, the difference between a business person and someone who's experimenting.
Right.
And
I haven't regretted that investment at all.
I haven't either. I haven't regretted it, but again, I also made that investment very confidently. Because I knew, like, I have put money aside specifically for this purpose. Could I use it for, like a very fancy weekend in a luxury, something or other? Yes, but why? Like, I also have a category for, breaks, holidays, etc., where I always put money into that category. And so this is actually going to be the second part of my little lesson for all y'all, which is that when you start to budget, and if you there are so many like budgeting apps, you rattled off a few. I actually pay for mine. So it's an online app that's, I don't know, something to the tune of like $80 a year. But when you budget, you no longer are allowed to look at your bank account balance. No lo hago. No lo hace. My Spanish isn't very good. Do not do. Don't look at your bank account balance. You look at your budget. So, if you find out about that 4-figure opportunity and you go to your budget and your budget says, listen, there's only a high 3 figures, you go back to that person or whoever saying, we've got an opportunity for you. And you say, sorry, it's not in my budget right now. I'll check you out the next time if I have it in my budget and if you're still around. But it's the budget that defines whether you're going to make that investment.
Excellent point.
It's huge, and I can't believe. I'm glad that you asked me the question whether I've heard any of the business owners and gurus who are in internet marketing, whether they talk about budgeting. I haven't personally come across anybody. who explicitly tells you to develop a budget, but it is such a game changer for
I,
your peace of mind.
I know of one company, and I was so impressed with that. And sadly, though, they uh, were doing some other things that the FCC wasn't happy about, so they've had to pay for that in the meantime.
Uh-huh.
Um, but they had budget training in there, and I was really impressed with that. I'll have to re look up that intro again because it
Free
was
resource.
spelled
Good.
out very well, and I was impressed that they were doing that to literally, teach about running a business.
Yes, it is so important. The app that I use, it follows what's known as the envelope method. Um, you've probably heard of it. My mother, she introduced it to me back when I was like a little kid and I was making, like 50 cents a week um, for doing chores around the house. Back when 50 cents bought you a can of Coke.
I know.
Um, um, and so I did remember the idea behind it. Of course,
Mhm.
as a 5-year-old, I didn't have any expenses, so it's sort of like the concept didn't really sort of, but the idea stuck with me,
Mhm.
and I think that that's something that like people who set up brick and mortar businesses, they might be a little bit more conscious of the need of having a
Mhm.
budget. So I have met a lot of people who are in struggling businesses who don't have a grasp over their budget,
Mhm.
mainly because they look at their bank balance and not their budget. And this
That,
is
that's the first I've heard of that idea, and that makes a lot of sense.
this is the key. It's like once you have a budget, you do not look in your bank balance. If you don't trust your budget, then you need to go back to the drawing board. So you start off with knowing what you have in the bank, knowing what expenses you have right now today, and
Mhm.
then, hey Jason, we want to hear your thoughts on budgeting. Knowing what you have in the bank today, knowing what your expenses are today, being able to anticipate like those other expenses, but just sort of saying, okay, this is how I need to allocate my monies, and then you stay strict to that.
Mhm.
It's a very tough shift to make at the beginning because most people don't really have a handle on their spending. But if you stay religious, once you've done like the first steps of budgeting the money you have today and saying, okay, actually, the only disposable income I have for today is actually $1 until I get some kind of revenue. Um, only then can I reallocate funds and figure out whether I can, invest in this 2-figure opportunity, 3-figure opportunity, 4-figure opportunity. And if there's something that really turned you on, especially as you're starting to budget, you can make like little goals and say, you know what, I'm not going to invest in this 4-figure opportunity right now today, but
Mhm.
I'm going to invest in that budget category that's important to me, that, and whatever you call it, learning and development, or, tools and technology. Oh, tools.
Oh gosh, yes. Yes,
I
name
don't
some of the categories. It's a little more than people would think.
Oh, it's so much more. Okay, well, first of all, I'll tell you what I do. I have my non negotiables. Okay, well, first of all, like I mentioned, you've got your earnings goals, right? But you've got your earnings goals, keep your eye on that prize, but then you have your actual bank balance.
Yes.
And those can sometimes be like two very separate beasts.
Hmm.
And be okay with your bank balance. Keep your eye on the goals and be excited about those and let those motivate you. But then when you start to budget, get very clear about your spending priorities. And by priorities, I mean, you have to have these Uber buckets. That's my very accounting, high level accounting term. You have to have your Uber buckets that basically say these are non negotiables. What are your non negotiables? Rent, at least it is for me, or your mortgage. So the roof over my head is a non negotiable. Groceries are a non negotiable. Dining out, negotiable. But it's there. So that goes into my second category. But my first category, my main priority is my non negotiables. Rent goes in there, your car note goes in there, because for a lot of people, that level of mobility is the difference between earning money and not earning money. That's
Yeah.
the key. In my case, it's public transport monies. So, but yeah, and then I also include in there, I have kind of like a second very important. So these are the ones that are kind of like, they're very important to me. They fulfill like a value need. So things like that can actually, for me, a big value need is like a holiday or time off money. So this is kind of like a wiggle room area, because it really is very values based, but it's definitely more motivating for most people. So very, very important can also be monies that you put away into, say, your child's college tuition fund, or money that you want to put in savings. And I'm not talking about the kind of savings that you dip into for whatever. I'm talking about the serious, if I lose my job or if nobody calls me for 6 months, I will still be able to pay my non-negotiables. So that's what I mean by savings. It's really the rainy day, I just got laid off fund. So that almost like that money,
funds.
it's an emergency fund, and that money goes into my savings bank balance. And again, I don't look at that bank balance for spending on other things.
And we're still talking about non-negotiables.
We're actually talking about like very importance. And for example, let's look at the non-negotiable, because I mentioned groceries, which is for me a non-negotiable. The number is quite high. We budget anywhere from like, I think my latest budget has been about 600, the equivalent of $600 a month.
Well, you're married to a chef after all.
I am married to a chef. This is very important. And actually, he is very good, because there's usually a lot of leftover monies. And now this is the key. It's like, now when I look at my budget, whenever I get paid, I always make sure that I meet that level. And then I can kind of like, whatever I can cream off the top, I can put into like the next buckets. So I go from the non-negotiable to the very important, and then to, this sort of like bottom row of stuff that gets creamed up, that kind of like one of those champagne fountain things. And so that's the level. That third level is where I start. And this is, I think, effective for somebody who has a home business, so they don't have to pay rent for their brick and mortar, because their brick and mortar is their rent. So at this stage, now you're talking about the investments that you're making into your business, the tools. I do have a computer fund. That's actually very important to me, because I need my computer to work. But I have my computer fund in that very important to me category. It's capped at like 3,000. So anytime I have that 3,000 in that budget category, it just hangs out there. And so now actually I can waterfall the extra money that I get every month into learning and education, buying advertising, getting an app to, automate my email software, whatever it is, ClickFunnels, this, that. So I can start to, really create like these smaller categories that I realize, oh, my business needs this. My business needs a tool. My business, and that's where the sort of like waterfall effect takes place. But be honest with yourself about, hey man, this is good stuff. We're definitely on the same wavelength. Yes, Jason, I've heard that you are a financial guru, so I would love to hear how you do this. We should have another like budgeting talk and actually
that would be great.
Invite you and just you share, because I know that like families have different priorities, and there are a lot of people who who have a home business and support a family at the same time, and it might be helpful for those people to know what their categories are.
Absolutely.
Let me look at my budget, because I've got loads of categories. Taxes.
What's that?
Taxes. Those are non-negotiables.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. When you're in business for yourself, you need to pay taxes. That goes in your non-negotiable. I'm laughing because
I learned that the hard way.
Yeah, 2020 was a bit of like a shocker. Well, actually, thanks to the fact that I had learned about budgeting about 2 years earlier, when I got the heart attack letters that basically totaled a healthy, very healthy for me, 5-figure sum that I owed the local government and the country government, the federal government. Actually, because I had a budget, I was able to play with the numbers, recategorize the budget, and then actually call the tax authority with a plan and say, I can pay you back within X months. And let me tell you, these people be really polite with you when you have a plan for them, because they get a lot of calls where people just continue to be irresponsible with their money. So we have actually covered, I have blabbed for 30 minutes on the topic of budgeting.
This is such a critical topic to talk about that we rarely hear about. Usually it's all marketing oriented. But
it's
the marketing
very earnings oriented. It needs to be more, it's very earnings oriented, which I think is important. And I think it's important to have that motivation, but understand your spending priorities. You will be loving your business if you can understand your spending priorities for your business.
I'm wondering if maybe we could because we have a minute left.
Less than a minute left.
We could continue this next week, if Jason's available to join us. What do you think, Jason?
Let us know, Jason. Let us know. But I think I would love to hear your perspective as a family man, and with the added complexities of so many mouths to feed.
and also with the retirement.
Yes.
Planning for retirement, or if you're already in there, these same principles apply.
Yes.
But I don't see him answering just yet. He's probably looking at his calendar, but we'll get back to you if that's doable next week.
And if you catch this show between now and next week, leave any of your comments about questions that you have for budgeting. I can do my best to answer. By the way, this is not like financial advice and
No,
past performance and blah blah blah.
no.
Like, don't hold me responsible, but I'm really hoping that like you'll feel very comfortable with the decisions that you're making once you understand your spending priorities.
Exactly, exactly. So, unfortunately, it's 10 o'clock. We are going to have to finish up. Please email at Rhonda and Cynthia at gmail.com, isn't it?
That's right. Yep. It's I
And
think that's what it is.
with your budgeting questions
Or leave a comment
or a
below
comment
the
here
video.
today, too. So,
Yeah.
definitely comments will get to us as well, and we'll answer
Yeah.
them the best as we can from our own experience and what we have
Mhm.
found has worked. Uh,
Mhm.
Cynthia, Cynthia is my guru, as well as Jason for the budgeting thing because they have it down so well.
It's
And I
it's
love the idea of not looking at the bank balance, only at the budget.
yes.
So if you've set your budget up right, you know exactly what's coming in and you budget accordingly and
That's
move
right.
things
And
around as you can. So,
I'm so glad you mentioned that because, like, no, none, anybody who's worked in a corporation, none of those bosses knew what was in the company's bank balance, but they knew what was in their budget.
yes, they did. Oh, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
You either got all or some of what you requested.
Right. Or not.
And
It
with
was
that,
reallocated.
I know. So until next week, we say thank you for watching. Share this video. Everybody that's in business for themselves needs to hear about this topic.
Yeah.
And
I'm,
again,
yeah.